Welcome to Behind the Catch Fence. I'm your host, David Hoffman. It's officially the month of May, which means the greatest spectacle in racing is only a few weeks away. To help kickstart your Indy 500 lead up, who better to have join us than one of racing's all-time greats? Joining us today, a longtime friend of the show, the one and only Mario Andretti. Mario, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, David. I like your shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, I had you get it at the shop Indy, of course. I don't think you saw this yet. The had to go with the 1969 car as
Ooh
well.
la
So
la. Oh my, you're fully equipped.
always equipped for greats like you. So I appreciate taking the time.
Pleasure.
We'll be talking all about Indy and it's first off before we get into your wins and everything else. Just let's go back to your first test session, first practice session there at Indianapolis. What was your first impression of that racetrack?
Well, obviously it's daunting, no question, because my experience on Super Speedway, was nil, quite honestly. And the thing for me in 1965, the last race that I had driven competitively was in a roadster. I was actually introduced to the sport, in IndyCar and with a rear engine car. And I had to take my driver's test at Indy, which, of course, I had been there, as a spectator in 1958. Well, no, actually, I lied. The year before, actually, I was there, in 64. But nevertheless, yeah, it was I knew I had a job to do, but I also felt so confident with the team, with Clint Broner, Jim McGee, um, as chief and co-chiefs. They really were there to take care of me, and I felt that the experience would be so important for to give me what I needed, and we made a lot of the right decisions. And the car, the chassis that we were able to go, which was a copy of a Brabham, really. Yeah, it served me well, as you could see, because gave me Rookie of the Year, and we played as so conservative, even qualifying. I didn't even qualify on straight alcohol. I qualified on 7% toluene, which was just to be sure that we don't overstress the engine. I could, I think I might qualify fourth, but I think it could have been a lot better than that. And in the race here again, we were very conservative, but a good third place behind the likes of Jim Clark and Pernelli Jones was not so bad for me. And yeah, a very auspicious beginning for sure.
It's not too shabby for a first time at Indy. And you obviously competed a large part, between the start of your career and at the end of it as well, like kind of more at the more innovative stage of, IndyCar racing where it was constantly changing. And
Coming on, yeah.
what was that like to go through just constantly having to constantly seeing the cars change, get faster and seeing, the innovation at probably its finest?
I love that. I mean, as a driver, obviously, you're always looking for uh, something that will allow you to go faster. And that was the direction that we were going. I was quite familiar, with the dirt cars. And then with the Dean Van Line, I had the opportunity to just have a go at the roadsters. And I had some, I think, just before Trenton, was really my rookie year. I finished second to Jim McElreath, who was driving a chassis that we copied, the Brabham chassis. And so, like I said, everything was looking good for me because I figured, oh, okay, I know that car is fast, and I know that would be faster than the Roadster at Indy itself. And so again, yeah, things were definitely going in the right direction for me.
And going into your 1969 Indy 500 win, obviously we've talked about it before. One of the coolest things that I saw when I was doing some research was, an astronaut had your 1969 diecast car
Yeah.
in space. I think it was going like 17,000 miles an hour or so. What's the story behind that?
Well, actually, I had received a call from control in Houston and space control, and they said that they want to celebrate this astronaut's birthday. Want me to wish him a happy birthday, and he had this model. I have it. I have it in the office here. A little model of the 1969 winner, and then they sent me a photo. Was looked like it was outside a capsule, but it wasn't. But look,
Oh my gosh.
it's so little, and it looked much bigger. I mean, anyway. So, and I said, "Oh my goodness!" So that's it. I had called him in space, and it was quite an experience in itself there to communicate with an astronaut while he was doing, as you say, 1,700 miles an hour plus. And here again, he just chose to take the little model there and into space and race up there.
That's probably the fastest that car is ever gonna go.
Yeah, it's still hot.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I found so fascinating with your win at Indy is how much is still talked about today and how it's almost sort of stood the test of time. Obviously, I'm wearing the shirt or the diecast car back there. There's different things. Just what do you feel, I guess, about that race, that win that, kind of still is reigns so loud for a lot of fans?
Well, it was. I had been competitive at Indy, but that was only, my rookie was 65, and basically that was only the second race that I finished. Since 65, 66, I was on pole. 67, I was on pole. I, really 68, finished fourth, but the 68, I was out at the second lap of the race, with a blown engine. So you could see that, and I had a very eventful month, I can tell you there, because everything started out looking really, really good because we had the latest and greatest. We had a deal, Andy Granatelli and myself, we did a deal with Colin Chapman to drive the four-wheel drive Lotus, which the chassis had been proven because it was basically a takeoff from the turbine 2 years before. And so again, here the car is there, it's fast. The car is fast. There's some good aerodynamic pieces on it and so forth. And Lord and behold, the first weekend of qualifying was rained out. And so we're getting ready to, do some qualifying second weekend, but at the same time, we had to do some race running. So that's what I was doing, some, more, heavy fuel running. And Lord and behold, during one of the runs, the right rear hub sheared coming out of turn 4. And, I had a big contact and fire and so forth. I was really, really fortunate because the whole top of the body blew off. It could have taken my head off, and so anyway, I was very, very, as I say, very lucky to escape. I had burns in the face and so forth. But, at that point, I figured I don't care. I'm still walking. So, and here we go. This is on a Thursday of qualifying, the second weekend. We had one day of practice, and they withdrew all the four-wheel drive cars because they had 2 incidents before with suspension failures, and so they felt the cars were deemed dangerous. So Colin Chapman, the Lotus, they withdrew their cars. They withdrew their entry. And what we were left with the Broner Hawk, which is a car that was entered as a, backup, but never felt, no way we're going to race it. Well, luckily, we won the race just before Indy at Hanford, so it showed that, some potential. But so we just stayed positive. That's what we got. That's what we got to go. That's the only horse we have. So polish it up and let's go. And as fate would have it, I put the car in the middle of the front row. So it showed that it had some competitive capability, but we had some issues with the cooling, and on the smaller tracks we were using an extra oil cooler exposed, which it didn't matter. We had so much power aerodynamically, but at the speedway we qualified without it, and we figured we'll put it on for the race. Well, all of a sudden, that was against the rules, so they did not allow us to put it. So they had to put a radiator right behind the seat where to pick up a scoop, under the car and exhaust it right behind my back. And can you imagine what that created for cockpit temperature? But anyway, I was, in the race, I was having some serious heating problem. I figured there's no way I'm going to finish. And but the thing kept going, and here we go. We win. We're the most unlikely race going in with the preparation and everything. Here we win it. And it was tremendous satisfaction from the standpoint of winning, even for Andy Granatelli, to be honest with you, because we knew how popular he was with the Novice, with all of his outside the box tries and everything. And here we go. We win with the most standard car of the moment, and so the satisfaction was immense, as you can imagine, all around. So that's it. And quite honestly, 69, when I look at the races that we won and all the different, on the road course where I got points on the dirt and the Pikes Peak Hill climb, that was points for the championship and everything. 2 years in 67, 66, 67, 68, I lost the championship in the closest margin in points on the very last race of the season at Riverside. This year, in 69, I had the championship won in August. And here I go to Riverside for the 300 miler. I figure, well, here I win that. And I didn't have to, but the point I'm making, if I was winning in Riverside all those years before that, and I lost the championship again right in the last race, and so there you go. But there was that year that there was to be a 69. It was a blessing for us, and tremendous satisfaction.
You mentioned that incredible season. I mean, to have that much success on all these different courses and everything else. I mean, like, what was the catalyst? Did you really feel like you were like really feeling it as a driver? Was it kind of the combination of yourself as a driver plus the team around you? What was sort of I guess the magic behind it?
Well, Adam, David, it's all of it. It's just when things come together. The team obviously has to function, and certainly did. With Jim McGee and Clint Brown, at the helm, I felt really, really like I was in good hands, and it showed. So yeah, we just had the formula. Somehow everything worked, and again, we were competitive everywhere. I won on a short oval, on an oval. on a dirt, Pikes Peak, road courses, and then the Indy. So that was wonderful year, wonderful season.
And with that season, as after Indy, when you won with the Broner Hawk, did you end up using that a little bit more, or was it still sort of only used for, select races?
No, we moved on. Like in those mainly in those years, you always try to come up with the better mousetrap, if you will, and move on. yeah. It's and for unfortunately, you don't always come up with a better solution either. So yeah, we didn't. We rely on a designer that was not really familiar totally with the ovals and so forth, and we sort of suffer a little bit. But it's not for the lack of trying.
And yeah, for you having won the Indy 500 yourself and having those narrow defeats as well, what do you feel is the most difficult part of winning the Indy 500? I mean, among the many, many things.
Well, it's one thing. It is it's a long race and so forth. And in the years that I competed, the rules were such that we were just pulling every inch out of those engines and everything. Today, by rule, you're staying way below the limit of the engine's capability, so you have reliability, and the chance of finishing today's race is like 99% mechanically. What would put you out as a mistake or whatever, technically, but things are much of, I think, I'm so happy that the rules are like that. I mean, it's, and actually my style would have really worked today because you can go flat out from the get go. And in those days, you had to be potentially a little patient. I was not, and I had, some moments, telling myself, Mario, maybe you should change your style. Then I decided, no, I can't. I don't. I won't. I'm just gonna go for it, and that's it. And no regrets. I said perhaps I took maybe a little bit too much out of some of the cars, but that was the way it was.
For you as a driver inside the cockpit, when you have to make those split-second decisions and tell yourself, no, I'm not actually going to go hard right now, or vice versa, how hard was that for you to kind of find a balance when, maybe the guy's right there and you can pass him, but you kind of have to take care of the car for a little bit?
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. Remember Al Unser Senior. He always said, he would even tell his son, Junior, says, let the race come to you. Well, I never let the race come to me. I knew I had to go after it.
You made the race
I,
come
I
to
was
you.
I was not that smart. I was not that patient.
Oh man.
It's hard to, like I said, to me, it was hard not to just go for it. And if unless it was leading, and here we go, like for instance, like in '87, I give you a for instance. And that year, I had just probably the best car throughout the month ever with Adrian Newman as an engineer on my side. This is probably the only time in IndyCar that I felt this time they have to beat me. I really had that confidence. And here it is in a race, with about 23 laps to go after I led the whole race. And, I'm trying to really keep the revs down and be conservative as ever. And that's what really caused the problem because I was running the engine in a bed harmonics. The engine, if I would have run that Ilmore engine, the Chevy engine at the time, which was brand new design, the next gear, if I would have run in fifth rather than sixth gear, which if I was pushed, for the lead or whatever, that's what I would have been. I would have finished the race running a 600 revs harder. And the engine man always said, Mario, keep the revs down, keep the revs. Well, I kept the revs down. That's what took me out of the race. The better harmonics said it dropped the valve, and I was out of the race. So as you can see, you try to do what everyone was always preaching to me, and all of a sudden that's what caught me out. I would have won the race otherwise, So there you have it. That's been Indy for me. It's I felt always. I really felt competitive there, over the years, but it just, the wind just eluded me, So that was it.
Well, nobody can take away, the 69 win. That's for sure. Not what's the other, I forget what year was it that you still have the rain on, but they took it away. Which one was that one?
81, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was the year that I I was running in Monaco the weekend of qualifying, so I had to Wally Dallenbach qualify the car for me, and I had to start last. And I was running. I won that race by rule. That was later on, and that was a situation where you can argue until the cows come home. But I won that race by rule. Bobby Unser passed 11 cars under the yellow, and he got away with it. So I was running second to Bobby. Um, and we both pitted together under a yellow, and we exited pits together. I was right on his gearbox, and the rule said if the field, which it was, alongside of you going on the straightaway at the end of the pit wall, the car that you see, that's the car you blend behind when you come out of turn two. And so here we go, and the car that I saw was Foyt, and he was about 11th. And so all of a sudden I see Bobby accelerating, and I'm on the radio. I'm telling Jim McGee. I said, "What in the world?" I said, "Looks like he's going right up to the front." He says, "Stay where you are. Stay where you are." And I blended behind. I blended where I needed to be, and he went right behind a pace car, 11 cars. And even it was Jim McKay and then Jackie Stewart. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. He was saying, Jackie Stewart, he can't do that. He can't do that. They even knew that then. And so here he goes, and he wins the race, and I'm second, of course. And so we said we were going to protest. We didn't have to. I get the call as soon as the official results were published. Early in the morning, it was like 5 in the morning. I get a call from Jim McGee. Said, "Well, we didn't have to. We won't have to protest. We won." And we go through everything, and then of course you're allowed to protest that. And this thing went on for 6 months. They dragged it on, and then the final the Petsky group convinced USAC to allow 3 outside judges to make the final decision. And the final decision said, under these circumstances, the penalty is too severe, so they fined him $40,000 and gave him the race back. And I thought that was, pretty odd because, that the penalty was 1 lap in those days. Yeah, if you commit that infraction, it's a 1 lap penalty. And years before, it was actually exercised, that penalty. I mean, Johnny Parsons would have the best finish. He was penalized, and several others. Anyway, the best part is the following year, David, the drivers' meeting. The following year, the meeting is just about at the end, and Tom Binford was the race director, and I said, "Tom, is the rule the same this year as last year?" He said, "Yes." I said, "So if I pass 11 cars under the yellow today and cross the finish line first, is the fine still $40,000? Oh, no. Oh, so the rule applies this year, but it didn't apply last year?" He said, "Mario," said, "I penalized them. It was out of my hands," which is true. He said, "So, it's just a farce. I'm sorry to say it, but that's why I still wear the ring."
I don't blame you.
They
That's
give,
what, yeah.
give it back.
I would never give
I
that
had to
back.
come up with another one.
At this point, I don't think they will. Oh man, so we're gonna have to put on our graphic 2-time Indy 500 winner. It's just to be clear for everyone watching.
Be clear. Yeah.
Final couple questions. Yeah, with this month of May, it'll be the second time that Kyle Larson's running it again, and and as someone who's had so much success in so many different race cars, dirt, pavement, whatever it may be, just what kind of stands out to you about Kyle and just his ability to adapt to these type of race cars so quickly, and no matter what type of car it is?
Well, it certainly catches my attention, because a racer is a racer, and he certainly is one. And to be honest with you, uh, I I sort of identify with that because I could never get enough of it, and neither does he. And you can see how quickly he adapts to situations. And whatever he drives, you'll get the most out of the car. And you saw last year at Indy, he was competitive in the race, and he will be this year for sure. I love that. Even during the practice, he had a little bit of a, but you could tell he's at the limit. He just goes for it. And yeah, I'm a fan, no question.
It's very easy to, especially seeing him, just in his wheelhouse, just having fun, and it takes you back to like when you and AJ were running all across the country and all
I
that.
love, I love that. Yeah, I mean, let's face it. He doesn't have to do that. Neither did we, but we love. He does it for the love and passion for it, and that's something that I admire tremendously.
It's incredible. It's going to be fun to see what he does this month of May. Now, final question for me. Now, it's obviously a big tradition to, after you win the race, drink the milk, kiss the bricks, and all that. But I know when before, obviously after you retired, the bricks still hadn't even been, kissed for the first time yet.
Right.
I saw a video recently that a couple years ago, you and Dale Jarrett did that together. How was that? Was that something that you would do again, or is this kind of like a blah type of thing?
No, I mean it's something that it's become a tradition again. Because finally got the bricks at start finish line, and it wasn't there when I was. So I said I want a shot at it. So I did it, and yeah, I've had so much fun. In later years. Even driving it to Cedar and starting the race like that. So it's always I so look forward to this event like all of us do every year. There's so much there. Just all of the memories are so positive, so uplifting for me. I mean, the family, look at in 91, 92. There were four of us, the same family that qualified for this race. That never happened before or since, and we have a lot of pride going for it, So, and Michael has been competitive. He should have won that race. I mean, and Marco, he almost won the first one. So anyway, yeah, and I feel that certainly have a horse in this race again. Marco's in it again, so I'll be out there just cheering him on.
Well, maybe we'll be seeing you kissing the bricks alongside him here in a couple weeks.
Oh man, yes, I give it a wet kiss.
Well, Mario, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Hopefully, you enjoy the month of May. Obviously, it'll be a lot of fun to see what all goes down. But thanks again for taking the time, and always appreciate coming on.
Well, it's my pleasure. See you there.